I'm Madhulika Ketadi, co-founder, COO of Independent Directors Institute, an initiative by RightSource Global. Firstly, let me wish you all a very happy new year. I'm sure most of us make resolutions every year. Some of us stick to them, but some of us push it to the next year. So we at RSG have taken a resolution to help corporations and individuals understand various aspects of environmental and the impact of our actions on it. And we have no plans to push it to the next year. Maybe, through this initiative, we can influence some of us understand the effects of our actions on the environment and maybe help the future generations have better air, water, and land to live. On the same note, I announce the launch of Environmental and Social Aspects of Governance, a course by RightSource Global. A renowned ethicist, Robert B. Rich, observed, individuals, not corporations, must be held accountable for undermining the common good. Environmental damage is not caused by corporations. It's the result of actions or lack of action of individuals. Like it or not, executives and directors are responsible and accountable for their own actions and inactions, and also to a large extent for those of their employees. It follows that industry leaders need knowledge and information that will assist them in discharging these responsibilities. The purpose of this course is not to convert these executives and directors to become environmentalists. Rather, it is to identify and explain the various environmental and social risks that leaders of industrial companies are likely to encounter and to suggest some strategies for responding to the challenges that will arise. In particular, it is hoped that this course will equip business leaders to ask the appropriate questions to the relevant staff, to seek access to external expertise, and to assess the adequacy of the answers they receive. Today, we are in conversation with Mr. Sundareshan Jayamurthy. I'm sure he needs no introduction at all in this corporate world. He has over 3 decades of experience and expertise, and with that experience, he has effectively mentored boards, acted as a life coach to directors, and I think this is one of the reasons that people have nicknamed him the compliance guru, which definitely is not an easy title to attain. Welcome, Mr. Jayamurthy. It's a pleasure to have you here.
Thanks, Madhulika. Thanks for having me. And
so I think today I have one of the greatest opportunities to pick your brain on the environmental and social aspects of governance. So I'll start off with the first one, Mr. Jayamurthy.
Yeah, please.
So I think there is a trend towards greater environment awareness in the industry. What are your thoughts on that?
First, on this ESG, this environment, social, and governance. What we need to understand is it is not a new concept. It has been in existence for a long time, but of late you will find in India it has suddenly, become the buzzword. The primary reason is SEBI has come out with this BRSR reporting, which is now become mandatory effective April 1st, 2023 for the top 1,000 listed companies. So the trend, if I may use that word, is on account of a legislation, on account of a mandate which has come in. Now, the second thing that we need to note is very clear, which is all this while we used to refer to corporate governance, as the buzzword for any great companies in India. Today, we are moving from corporate governance to what I would call behavioral governance. Now, this ESG is more to do with behavioral governance inside boardrooms. And on the environment awareness, yeah, very simple, right? I mean, every one of these companies have to work towards the 3 principles, which is this triple bottom line, as they say, the planet, the people, and of course, they have replaced the word profit for prosperity. Okay, Madhulika, I mean, earlier on it was like PPP, people, profit, but today it has become planet, people, and prosperity. So, where this whole trend is heading towards is more and more companies, more and more boards are trying to relook at the purpose of existence itself. I'm talking about purpose of existence of a corporation. And that is why the trend towards environmental awareness is increasing in the last few years.
Couldn't agree more with you, Mr. Jayamurthy. I think something like ESG starts right from, I believe, from your kitchen itself, right? Segregating your
Yeah,
waste, right? So I think it's nothing new if we really see. But I think, yeah, people, I think our human race is always tended to that thing. Only when you see destruction, that's when you'll go back and see what do you need to do, right?
I
So,
100% agree with you. Yeah.
and I think on this note, so what are the benefits of high ESG performance for companies?
See, again, this ESG performance, when you're speaking about the performance, all these while the parameter for judging a company, like I said, was corporate governance.
Right.
Now it has moved to ESG performance. Now, what is this ESG performance? In very simple terms, let me explain to you. There is, I mean, my way of looking at things, okay? E stands for extinction, S stands for survival, and G would stand for going concern. So just do upside down of this whole thing. All these while we are concentrating on G, which is governance, which is whether my company will be a going concern. In the next 3 to 5 years, trust me, corporations will move to the mantra check out if these companies are going to even survive. Even though S stands for social, but my version of putting S is survival. And world over, 2030 has been fixed as the cutoff. Cutoff for what? Cutoff on most countries, I'm not even talking about companies, countries to fall in line with concepts like decarbonization, like water conservation, better human rights, and so on and so forth. So, where this whole valuation game is going to change, Madhulika, is very simple. No longer companies will be looked at parameters pertaining to corporate governance, tick the box disclosure requirements. Now starts the real time governance, which is ESG. And most investors, whether it is going to be private equity investors or whether it is going to be funds, they are going to put money in the company which is going to provide some great sustainability reports. So that is where we are heading to.
Absolutely. I couldn't, put it in a better way. Somehow, when you were talking about ESG in your terms, the three things that came to mind were Brahma, Vishnu, Maheshwara.
Oh, yeah.
Creation, preservation, and destruction. I think, yeah, that was absolutely nice to know. So, keeping this in mind, how do you think the approach to business is going to change from the traditional approach that was there till today?
Everything has to change, right? A realignment has to happen. Now, again, here, Madhulika, the whole, what we have been researching, for an IT company, it's not going to affect much. Much in the sense, if you really put these parameters of E, S, and a G, these companies focus more on emission related issues, whereas water and other related waste or things like that would not be impacting them. Yeah. So basically, where we are coming from, it's going to change from industry to industry. It's going to have an impact on separate sectors on many industries. And that is where we need to see where this whole trend is going to head to.
All right. Got it. So you did mention something about, sustainability reporting and, going forward, even somebody has to invest, they're going to see how sustainable a company is, right? So, what is the sustainability reporting and how important is it?
Okay, I would speak about India, right? I mean, there are a lot of sustainability reporting. There is GRI, there is SASB, there is TSCD. There are a lot of variations in reporting. But in India, SEBI has brought out a format of reporting, and that is here to stay, because there are around 150 to 160 parameters based on which the company will be judged, and all these parameters put together would form part of a BRSR reporting. Okay, now not to confuse between a sustainability reporting and this. Sustainability reporting, like many Indian companies like Dr. Reddy's, have been publishing reports in the last 10, 12 years on their own on sustainability practices. But the sustainability reporting per se, from India perspective, is the PRSR reporting, which is the business responsibility and sustainability report, which has come into work, and that is the basis on which companies will start getting judged. So I would not be surprised in the next couple of years, awards will start coming in for the best BRSR report, like we already have for corporate governance. I think a lot of changes will happen on the sustainability front also.
Yeah, I think in with regards to the award things, I'm sure it's definitely going to happen. I think India is one place where you want to give award for everything.
Yeah.
Uh, so now that we understand what sustainability report and all is, so what is the role of the boardroom and the people on the board in terms of developing this ESG culture or promoting this ESG culture within the business?
I would put it, of course, I come from a background where I train boards on liabilities more than anything else. Okay. I mean, for me, liability is much important from a board standpoint than anything else. Now, here, what is going to happen is everything that the board is going to report, publish, display, disclose pertaining to ESG, there is liability which is staring at the board. So I think the boards have to wake up, have to give time to go through these reports and various publications that are happening in the public domain, to ensure that the reputation of the company is not at stake. Now that is primary. The other thing which I'm seeing is, of course, there are a lot of boards which have been set up. There are a lot of committees which has been set up on ESG. There is a lot of traction inside Indian boards, but still a long way to go. My maturity analysis on what you asked on the board related question would be, by 2025, I think lot many boards will wake up to this BRSR call than 2023. So we need to give them time, because India is India, and of course the volume, the everything is big, right? I mean, we are talking about a country which is big in every way, right? So even the compliances are huge. So I think we should give them time, but clock has started ticking, which is 1st of April 2023. So I think all boards are gearing up. There is a lot of awareness. There are a lot of training happening inside boards.
So I think, yeah, India should be gearing up soon to adapt the ESGs across the board. So now that you have taken this word liability for the board, right? So I want to understand, what are the common issues that the companies actually face in terms of ESG, and how do you address them?
Oh my God, that's a very big subject, Madhulika. To be very honest, it will take days. Okay.
Maybe.
But for easier understanding, let me tell you, the liability is is what do I call within the organization, which the boards need to understand. If you take environment, there are around few parameters like biodiversity, ecological, then your water. That's what I said, and what I in very easy way to understand, Madhulika, like how you said the kitchen waste. What I tell them is, environment falls into these five fingers. Very simple. This stands for fire, air, space, earth, water. So whichever ways you look at it, every company has to check which of these fingers or which of these elements, as I call, is going to affect the system, and they will start working towards it. Then on the social front, there are a lot of good things happening, Madhulika. In fact, I'll tell you, there are issues like, large corporations saying that, listen, my factory is not yet ready to accept or invite a physically challenged person into my company. Imagine that is something which every corporate has to start working. There are some amazing corporations which have already got their buildings ready, where even a person who is blind can walk into the premises by touching the walls. I mean, when I hear these lovely stories on ESG, I'll tell you, I mean, more than liability, liability is there. I mean, but what is fascinating for me is the way people are trying to get these lovely things into place to ensure that they are closer to being perfect. I mean, nobody can be perfect, but closer to being perfect. Like, you will also find, work from home policy. Now there is, funnily, they call it work from office policy. I mean, there are situations where employees have started asking, I believe, is there a work from office policy? I mean, all this while, at least in my last 3 decades, I have never heard something like this, but these are all emerging things on social. Then, of course, on governance, very important are these bribery issues, the anti-corruption laws, which I think the government has really come up, and they have put it down in that report, where they have spent a few parameters. They have asked you to answer it. I think these are things which, from a larger perspective on the ESG parameters, boards will have to look at.
Then what are some of the best practices for these companies, to improve their ESG performance?
PPP. This is not that PPP. Okay, this is very simple PPP. This is policies. Policies for everything. You need to have a policy. Point number 2, there needs to be a procedure. Point number 3, there needs to be a process. So the 3 P's that I keep telling people to follow so that they are all falling in line with this ESG are the policies, procedures, and processes. If you have these in place, and that is what the report is also harping upon, because there is an exclusive part B which talks about only policies. So you can understand how much of importance even the regulators have given for this particular thing on policies. So these are the 3 things which should safeguard their interest. And of course, there are also a lot of assessments which are prescribed. There are a lot of audits which are prescribed. So checks and balances are the only way you can mitigate the so-called liabilities, which I'm just saying. I mean, whatever liabilities that I'm letting you know. But to mitigate this, I think audits, assessments are some of the things that companies can fall in line.
So till now, I think I've always been telling anybody whom I talk to that, a company is all about people, right? I think after our discussion, I'll have to add the another 3 P's as well, for us to actually go ahead and evolve ourselves.
Yeah.
Right. So coming to almost the end of the session, so how is this ESG landscape evolving, and what trends should companies be aware of?
Before I go to the landscape, people today are thinking that this BRSR is a huge monster waiting out there, and they're all afraid. To be honest, I've been speaking to so many professionals in the last few months, and the reaction that I get, Madhulika, unfortunately, is oh no, there are too many details, too much of issues. No, this lovely report is what I call a self-appraisal report for the company. Now tell me, Madhulika, when you're working for a company, are you not appraised on a yearly basis? Same thing will apply to corporates. And a lovely tool for self-appraisal is in the form of BRSR. Point number one. Point number two, this reporting is all about teamwork. No individual can write this report. And the prominent players out here are the HR department. Without the support of a head of HR or the department of HR, I cannot even think of writing this report. The second important person for me in writing this report is the head of operations. Without this person, I can't even start thinking of writing a report. So please understand, a corporate governance used to be a one-man show or a one-woman show, the single person show. Now we are moving to a report, which is a sustainability report, which is going to be team effort. And as I told you, after the report is written, it goes to the board clears the whole thing. Clear? So this is one aspect of looking at this whole thing on BRSR. Now coming to the landscape, coming to the changing scenarios which are going to happen, lot of things. Now, I will not get into the ESG part of it. I will get into the corporate world part of it. Please understand, there will be a separate committee on the board. See how everything is going to change inside the organization. There will be a requirement for a chief sustainability officer. There will be a requirement to form a team on a permanent basis in your company. It is not like, you just form the committee and then dismantle it. No, you need to have at least a 10-member team, depending on the size of the organization. At least you need to have a team in the organization. Next, if you think this is going to be seasonal, no. It is going to be throughout the year that you need to be monitoring. This is like a thermometer which is inside your mouth, which is monitoring the temperature of BRSR throughout the year. We cannot afford to slip up, or good companies cannot afford to slip up on the sustainability and the BRSR issues, because that is where I said, when you ask me about the landscape, very simple, forget about the monetary penalty. What I am worried is the reputation risk. The biggest risk that is going to hit any of the corporations in the long run is the reputation risk on account of not getting the ESG right. Got it? So this is how the whole thing is going to change.
That was some really good insights on ESG, Mr. Jayamurthy. It was really an amazing session. I for sure have learned a lot of things from today's session, and thank you so much for your time and the valuable inputs on ESG. Is there anything that you want to tell our audience on a closing note?
Very honestly, I have been a crusader. I would say a champion for this cause. I have taken it upon me. And very simple, every corporate has to get into this lovely journey of ESG. So to end it, I'll say the future is now, which means ESG. I always say the future is now, and you have to start now. And one quote which I always give in my own style, which is, Jahan hai to jaan hai. Very simple. If earth exists, you will exist. Otherwise, it's going to be the end of the game. So let's all of us do it together. Let's try to change things in whatever simple way, like you said, the kitchen of yours or kitchen of mine, where we started already. So everything starts from home. I think we need to head in this direction of getting ESG right.
Thank you so much. That was really an amazing insights that you have given, and your closing note was something to learn for. I think all of us should, take resolutions in terms of doing something, towards helping and preserving the environment. Now, that was all about ESG from RSG. Thank you all for watching this. If you wish to understand more about ESG and be a part of the RSG family, please reach out to us on team-idi@rightsource-global.com. We wish you all a wonderful year ahead. Thank you, Mr. Jayamurthy. We are all in it with you and for a greater cause. And take care. Have a great day.
Thank you. All the very best.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.